guys, Bobby Hughes here with Hollow Point Shooters, and out here in the Hollow Point Shooters survival camp. I got my fire ring all put together, and I've already got some tinder and kindling processed, so we're going to go ahead and get a fire going. It's only about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, but it's already starting to get dark, and I think by about 4:30, 4:45 it's going to be black on us. One thing that's important to remember whenever you're out in the camp or in a survival situation or anything like that, it's important that you make sure that you're prepared, alright, with your fire kit or whatever you're going to use to start your fire with. Alright, so, and there's some main factors that play into fire making. Alright, fire requires three things, three elements, and that is oxygen, fuel, and heat. Alright, so in order to create fire, you need all three. In order to extinguish fire, you only have to take out one of them, and the easiest one usually is oxygen. Alright, but at the same point, it's important that to keep that fire going, especially in a survival situation all night or whatever to stay warm, it's important to have enough fuel. Alright, you'll have plenty of oxygen, you'll have plenty of heat as long as you have fuel. So, and when I'm talking about fuel, I'm talking about firewood. Alright, so it's important to have a pretty good stockpile. It's also important to start early on your fire making. Alright, right now I got about 30-45 minutes. I would say that that's cutting it a little short, but I'm pretty confident in my ability to make fire. Alright, so if you're not as, I guess, seasoned in it as myself or other survivalists or campers or whatever, then you may want to start preparing earlier. Alright, and you'll see here in just a second, I process my wood and stack it into stages as I'm going to need it. Okay, so it's important to be organized and have everything readily available, because you may only get one shot at it. All right, so it's important to be well prepared and be ready for everything. All right, you're also going to want to stockpile, like I said, enough fuel to keep it going for the duration of the time that you're going to need it. All right, tonight I'm going to start this fire at about 4 o'clock. I'm going to need it till about 7 o'clock in the morning. All right, so that's over 12 hours that I'm going to need that fire. So you have to be sure and have enough wood stockpiled. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to show you guys a down and dirty way to start a fire. Look at, I want you to take a look at my supply over here. All right, now right there in the front, I have what I call my tinder. All right, that's my little bitty dry sticks. Everything here is dead wood. It's deadfall. So I know that it's good and dry, and it's been laying there for a while. So the first little stack is my tinder. Then I start moving into my kindling. You'll see there on the bottom, my kindling's a little bit bigger than the stuff on the top, because that's the way that I'm going to be using it. That's the order and what I'm going to need. All right, and you'll notice I have quite a bit stacked up there, because it takes a lot more than a few seconds to get a fire going. All right, we want a self-sustained fire. And then over here, I've just got it tucked up underneath the shelter a little bit. I've got a pretty good supply of fuel, firewood stacked up there, some bigger stuff. All right, and then I've got another little reserve stockpile that I've been working on as I build stuff. I'll take the scrap stuff that I'm not using and stack it up. Now, when I got out here, my little fire pit here was kind of filled in with snow. So what I did was I took my e-tool or my shovel and scooped it out a little bit. Just tried to clear it down to the dry stuff, or the semi-dry stuff, about as dry as we're going to get. Alright, and then after that, what we do is, when you're dividing up your kindling and stuff, you want to create a little platform, a dry platform that you can build your fire on. Alright, so in this case, what I've done is I've built it on just some sticks, some dry sticks, and I've laid them crisscrossed. Alright, so it's kind of like a checker pattern. I laid the bottom row this way and then the top row this way, and that gives me a good little platform, but also allows oxygen to flow up underneath. Alright, if you build it right on the dirt, there's two problems with that. The first problem is that it's damp and moist, and the second problem with that is that it's not going to get adequate flow of oxygen underneath. Okay, so I've got my little fire kit here. You guys have seen it before in my Oakley case, and what I'm going to be using today to get this fire going is I'm going to actually use some dryer lint and some of my Ultimate Survival WetFire. Alright, I should have a little chunk left in there from last time I was out here goofing around. Alright, and then we'll use our Ultimate Survival Flint and Steel. So it's too easy to get it going with this. This stuff works awesome. I'm going to go ahead and use the rest of this chunk here. I'm going to go ahead and lay that right over to the side there for a second. I'm going to take a little bit of my dryer lint out here. And I'm going to pull it apart. Hope you guys can see this. I'm going to pull it apart and then kind of mash it back together. Alright, and that's going to make a little bed for my WetFire to set in, because what I'm going to do now, or a little nest, I'm going to break my WetFire up into a couple of little chunks, just like that. And all that does is it allows it to aerate a little bit, and then I'll put my big chunk right there. And then I'm going to take another little piece of my dryer lint. Love dryer lint, guys. It takes up no space in your fire kit. It works awesome for starting a fire as long as you keep it good and dry. And as long as you have a dryer at home, you have a bountiful supply of it for free, minus whatever your electric bill is. Anyway, so what I'm going to do with this now is I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to pull it apart. I'm going to put it right back behind it like that. And all that's going to do is create a little platform for me to go ahead and start taking some of my tinder and lay it across here. And I want to create a little overdraft effect, kind of. Notice how it kind of hangs over top of my WetFire there. And what that'll do is it, without putting too much pressure on the actual tinder itself, or the WetFire, or starting material, it'll actually allow it to start on fire. Alright, so I'm just going to pile a little bit of that. It's also important not to overdo it. If you overdo the your tinder before you get your flame going, then once it collapses, it'll just smother out. It's not a good day. So, alright. So I'm just going to take my flint and steel and give it a couple of good strikes there, and that'll start burning. Alright, this is when it counts. That WetFire is going to give you a sustainable fire for a little while, so you don't have to rush too much with it, but you also don't want to take your time either. Just slowly feed it, and what this is going to do is it's going to dry it out and eventually catch on fire. It should be pretty dry, other than it just being maybe a little damp. It is a little, did just snow a couple days ago, so we do have a little bit of snow on the ground still. A good way you can tell when it's time to add more tinder or more wood is when the flames start protruding. I think we'll be okay, out of the material that you're laying on it. Once again, like I said, prep is important. It's important to have everything broke up and ready to go on the flame, so that you're not wasting your time trying to find more tinder or more kindling. It's always better to have too much than not enough, because hey, it's fuel. It'll still burn, even if you do have a good fire going already. So what we're going to do is just keep stacking this on here. I use the TP method, guys. There's different people use different methods. I find that I use the TP method, and I like that method. that's just my personal preference. Not saying that any of the other ones are wrong, but like I said, it's just my personal preference to use the TP method. Alright, now you can see it's going pretty good there. So what I'm going to do now is, I don't want to wait. Alright, my flame is obviously protruding, so that means we're burning. So I want to go ahead and start adding my smaller kindling now. Alright, because some of it might be a little damp. It may need the heat to get going. So I'm going to go ahead and just start adding my smaller kindling. Telling you guys, a lot of people prefer, or I'm not going to say prefer, but they try to hardcore it and not use some sort of fire sustaining material, whether it be the military issue trioxylane stuff, or whether it be the WetFire by Ultimate Survival. Pathfinder School, Dave Canterbury's school, they've got a stuff out. I can't remember the name of it right off the top of my head, but that stuff is so small, you know, it takes up little to no room in your pack, and that's just something, it's something great to have, especially the stuff I use, the Ultimate Survival WetFire. You can keep a cube of it, as a matter of fact, inside the handle of my flint and steel. It's got a little compartment in there that you can keep a little something, and it'll actually fit right down in there. So, you know, don't try to be a BA and end up dying because you're cold, or you freeze to death, or you starve to death, or you dehydrate because you can't purify water, or whatever. Fire is, in my opinion, #1 on the list of importance when it comes to your survivability and self-reliance. Because if you don't have fire, nothing else follows. You might have all the water in the world, but if you die of frostbite or hypothermia, it doesn't do any good. You see, we got a pretty good fire going here. That was a little bit quicker than I expected to be, so it's good. And basically what you're going to do, guys, is just notice how I keep just TPing it, whether it be across the front or across the back, as long as you're feeding it. Man, it feels good. It's a little cold out here. It's not too bad. Now, I think it was 38 degrees when I got here, which is not cold at all for this time of year in Wisconsin. I'm surprised we've only had, I think it's 4 days till Christmas. We've only had, actually it's more than that, it's the 19th, I said. So, uh-oh. Just come back across the top there. Now, I don't know if you guys can hear it or not, but there's some of this stuff's a little damp. You can hear it drying it out. That's why it's important to feed it early, but not too fast. That way it can dry out. Now, something else you might want to do too, depending on the wood that you're using, if it's a little damp, you can take and lay some of your firewood in here around it. Let it start drying out. hopefully my camera doesn't get too cold and die on us. Anyway, that should get us going right there, guys. So anyway, like I said, it's pretty simple. Fire is not a hard thing to accomplish. Some people try to make it hard, and the reason why I say that is they try to outsmart the program, or, you know, like I talked about early, try to be more badass or whatever you want to call it. But with those simple things, I got a fire going really quick, and that may be the difference between life and death, guys. So pay attention and, you know, do it. Learn your way. Everybody's got their own way to do it. Practice. Practice makes perfect. It's important to practice. Don't just go out in the woods and plan for it to work, and it's not going to if you don't practice. So once you get it going, then you should be good to go. Alright, so stay tuned, guys. Check out the other videos. I got several more videos that I'm working on while I'm out here, so stay tuned and keep a lookout for those. If you're not already subscribed to Hollow Point Shooters, go ahead and click that subscribe button. It just lets us know that you support what we're doing and that you care about what we're doing. So anyway, click the like button too if you want to. But anyway, we'll talk to you guys later. Peace.